Here we go. It's time to go temple building from the inside out. Many of us know that physical and mental health play a direct part in spiritual health, but we may not know how to bring it all together. Well, here's your host, Desiree Fletcher Carruthers, as we go temple building from the inside out.
Hey everybody, and welcome to KPOG 102.9's Temple Building from the Inside Out. I'm your host, Desiree Fletcher Carruthers, and thanks for joining me. As always, please be sure to visit us at kpog.org, where you can also listen live or download the KPOG app on your smartphone and carry us with you wherever you go. Oh my goodness, friends, I am so happy to be back on the air. It's hard to believe that my last program was March 8th when we were talking about CHIP, and that's the Complete Health Improvement Program, which of course never happened because shortly after that show, we were enveloped by COVID-19, during which time I also took a break from temple building to focus on my family and also my job. While most of the world was shutting down, the chiropractic office I work for was still operating, helping people relieve pain along with other health-related services that they couldn't necessarily get in a normal's a bad word to use, but a doctor's office that they might normally go to, I would say, because they were trying to prepare and save room for individuals that could be positive for COVID-19. So that part of my life actually got a little bit busier. And man, what an extreme roller coaster for everyone, physically, financially, emotionally, and spiritually. And you know, there's still a lot of uncertainty going on out there. What's going to happen next with this pandemic? Is this going to disappear completely? Are we going to get into a period of cyclical waves? Some people believe we've already experienced that, where we've had, a couple of waves of the pandemic wash over us. Or are we going to end up with a low-level endemic disease that we have to deal with? And that is a possibility too. We just don't know. And then to add to all of this mania, we now have widespread civil unrest again. There are just so many emotions running around out there, stressful emotions. We have, death, fear, anger, disappointment, confusion, violence, the elusive pursuit of justice. I guess death is not an emotion, it's an action, a thing that happens, but fear of dying. If we get this virus, can we die? How dangerous is it? And this is where I wanted to start our discussion today. I want to address the white elephant in the room, because stress is something that we are all dealing with. I would even go so far as to say that we're not just dealing with stress alone, but the one-ton gorilla called chronic stress. And chronic stress is the response to emotional pressure suffered for a prolonged period of time. And I would say that fits. I mean, we've been dealing with these things, at least the pandemic, starting in March. And during this time of prolonged stress, the individual perceives that he or she has no control. And I would say that accurately describes the stress that we've been under. It's been for a long time, and many of us feel like we have control over very little of that's what's going on around us. So if this doesn't sound like you, although I'm guessing that it does, it definitely sounds like me. I have an immunocompromised husband. He's had a poor immune system since day one, which was weakened even more by Lyme disease. So he's one of those individuals in the fatal COVID-19 danger zone, right along with a couple of close relatives that have cancer, older in-laws, grandparents. My husband is also self-employed. We all know small businesses have taken a significant financial hit. A lot of employees of small businesses have also taken that hit and are, and probably still are, unemployed. Corey's business was no different. Homeschooling, trying to figure out what to do with our kids and how to support them since they can't be in school. paperwork on top of paperwork, trying to get through the financial mumbo jumbo of the Paycheck Protection Program and all of the other financial programs that were out there to assist people during these times. No senior graduation, the seniors of 2020. I have one. They have no prom, no graduation, no senior party, no a lot of things. And, they're upset about that. A lot of them are. Just being out in public to go grocery shopping was stressful. No toilet paper, which I still don't understand, was stressful. Not being able to be out in public is stressful. The new rules to being out in public now can also be stressful. And in addition to all of these things, I have children marching, protesting for what they believe in amidst tear gas and smoke bombs. And while I support them expressing their voice and peacefully demonstrating, what scares me is I don't know what the person next to them may ultimately do when they get tired of peaceful demonstration and then things turn into a rioting situation. That's what stresses me out. I think I read a tweet that said, they're protesting in Iowa. You know, things must be bad. They must be bad. They must be stressed out. Prolonged stress, at least 3 months worth right now, and it's going to be a while longer before it ends. And for some people, chronic stress never ends. Elements in their daily lives are a source of chronic stress for them. Not just these crazy world events, but elements in their everyday life. And side note, not all stress is bad. There is a stress called eustress, and it's the moderate or normal psychological stress interpreted as being beneficial. So in other words, when you feel like hyped up, excited for that big game, or you're getting ready to give a presentation that you know is going to earn you that promotion and you're ready to crush it, that's eustress. Stress that leads you forward to accomplishing a goal, productive stress. But eustress is not what most of us are feeling right now. It's that chronic stress, myself included, and I want to talk about how this works and hopefully get to some points of how we can get past it. In the midst of all of this chronic stress, the difference for me is that I purposely work to address it. I refuse to accept staying stressed as a normal part of life. A state of peace and joy is where I want to live and function, and I'm going to pursue that intentionally as much as I can, and I'm challenging you to do the same. We all have stress. We all have to deal with it. Whether or not you stay in that state of stress is up to you. So how do we get to the point where we can escape our stress? How do we get past it? How do we overcome the stress and the worry to live more joyfully? And beyond that, maybe you're wondering, why on earth is Desiree even talking about this? Because Temple Building is largely a nutrition and health show. Well, the short answer is stress and worry not only rob your joy, but also your health. If left unchecked, they can and do lead to a variety of diseases. The biological process leading to disease is integrally intertwined with your brain and gut function. This is also known as the brain-gut axis. And since your gut is integrally intertwined with nutrition, boom, there you have it, the stress and nutrition version of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And that's why I'm talking about this today. But before we actually get to unpacking the brain-gut axis, I want to talk about 2 modes of health. There is the growth mode and the protection mode. So kind of stick with me because this is going to set the foundation for the rest of our discussion. So growth mode is a state of being in growth. It's when your body is functioning the way it was designed to function. All systems are go. Your body is ready to build things, think things, digest things, all that proactive good health stuff. This is the ideal daily mode of operation we want for our health. This is where we want to spend the majority of our time. And then there is protection mode, or your fight or flight mode, which is triggered by a stressor of some kind. So what if you were being chased by something or someone? Let's say a zombie. Bloodthirsty, I want to eat your brain zombie, and it's one of those sprinter zombies from World War Z. Let me tell you, when I saw those movies, And those zombies were moving so fast, that stressed me out. And you have to run like the Dickens to save your life. And that's why it's so stressful, because you can imagine yourself in that situation. Can I escape that zombie? We don't know. During this moment, all of your blood while you're running from that zombie is being pumped to your muscles so you can run really fast. Your brain doesn't care about digestion at that moment. It doesn't care about secreting insulin. It doesn't care about deep thinking. The only function your mind and body are focused on is running fast. And that is your protection. That's your fight or flight mode. Now, while being in protection mode is great during an emergency, being in protection mode 24/7 is not. You remember our growth mode. It's where we want to be. And because protection mode trumps growth mode, being in a chronic state of protection can cause health problems. That's that chronic stress I've been talking about, that chronic state of stress that many of us have been in for several months right now. And it's going to take its toll. If you haven't experienced it yet, and I hope you don't, maybe you won't, but there are many who will, and it's coming. Because you can't move forward and backwards at the same time. It's kind of like driving a car, pressing on the brake and the gas pedal at the same time. You get nowhere, folks. You're just spinning your wheels. You're spinning your wheels, wearing them out. You're going to have to replace them, which is going to cost you more money, and you're going to have more stress, right? We don't want to do that. Similarly, you cannot maintain a sustained protection mode and a sustained growth mode at the same time. Your body will only recognize one mode at a time. And which mode do we want it to recognize more often? It's the growth mode, right? Okay, so now let's tie in a little biochemistry. Both the growth and protection behaviors are controlled by your nervous system. More specifically, a part of your nervous system called the HPAT or the HPAT axis. This consists of your hypothalamus gland and your pituitary gland, both of which are located in your brain, your adrenal glands, and your thyroid gland. All of these glands are part of your endocrine system, which is controlled by your nervous system. Now, your endocrine system is a group of glands that produce and secrete hormones that your body uses for a wide range of functions. Your nervous system is your communication highway or the electrical wiring between your brain and the rest of your body. And of course, your nervous system is housed in your spine. Okay, so lock that little piece of knowledge away for later. We might not get to it in this show, but it's really important, because if your spine is not in alignment, which you've heard me say this before, then your electrical wiring, your nervous system is not going to function correctly. So as a little aside, one thing that you should all keep in mind is, regardless of how technical some of this might sound, just remember that the body is amazing. We were all fearfully and wonderfully made. The Bible tells us so. And each of your systems work together to produce whatever kind of function or reaction your body needs to function at that moment. And so one thing is not going to operate aside from another. The body all works together. Just like your hand can't move without your brain, and you can't run without your brain, and none of those communication signals can get through to any of those body parts without your spinal column. It all works together. So there's a little detour for you. Keep that in mind. All right, getting back to the matter at hand. When we are in a protection or stress mode, all right, so we're talking about the hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, your adrenal glands, your thyroid glands, all of those things, your HPAT axis. When we are in protection or stress mode, it's the hypothalamus that recognizes and receives the stress hormones released by your adrenals. Once those stress hormones are received, the hypothalamus then triggers a series of other messages to the other members of the HPAT axis that release the rest of your fight or flight hormones, which includes adrenaline, cortisol. I know a lot of you know about adrenaline and cortisol, and we associate cortisol with gaining weight, being a stress hormone, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. These are all your main stress hormones. They work together. Some are more famous or popular than others, but they all work together. And when your body is constantly spinning in stress mode, you can't get back to growth mode. And that's where things start to fall apart. So whether it's an emergency like our zombie, It's your job, it's a relationship, alcohol, drugs, school, money problems, parenting, running your kids to and fro, lack of sleep, or paying too much attention to social media, worrying about what other people are or aren't saying about you. If you experience any or all of these problems, areas, challenges, we'll say, if left unchecked, these things can create a chronic stress habit, not only putting us in, but keeping us in protection mode. And these are all things that we deal with every day, every single day. And some of us have more of them impacting our lives than others. And I'm going to repeat it again, but I want you to remember this. Protection mode trumps growth mode every time. Every time. It will. The body, if you are in trouble, the body wants to get you out. And so it's going to trump growth mode every time. But growth mode is where we want to be on a regular basis. So getting back to the brain-gut axis, okay, this is our two-way relationship that allows the brain to manage our digestive function, regulate the gut's immune system, and coordinate the emotional and physical well-being of a person through the activity in the gut. The brain and the gut, they're doing that. They're talking. They're working together. Like I said, everything is intertwined in the body. And they do that to produce, out of all of those functions, one of the outcomes is serotonin. And I know many of you are familiar with serotonin. In its simplest terms, it's our happy hormone. It's what makes us happy. We like serotonin. We want serotonin. In your gut are trillions of little microbes, including good bacteria and viruses. And we've talked about this in past shows when we were talking about gut health. And so you've got a little bit of background. If you don't remember those shows, or you didn't see those shows or hear those shows, go to KPOG on Facebook, scroll through, you can find it, you can listen to it, and have more background in this area. So gut health, microbes, millions, trillions, good bacteria, good viruses, we need those. It's the metabolic action of these tiny friends that starts the process of making serotonin in our gut. So we don't make serotonin in our brain, we make it in our gut. When serotonin seeps across the gut lining into your bloodstream and into the vagus nerve, which connects the brain to the gut and the nervous system, so we've got that communication moving up and down, a message goes out from the brain to the gut that says, bring me all of the serotonin. I want to be happy. Give it to me. And that's where the brain comes into picture, because the serotonin is made in the gut, but the brain is calling for the serotonin so it can use it for the rest of the body. But am I talking too fast? I mean, this is a big story to unpack. And there's a lot of details here, so hopefully you're still tracking with me here. So stick with me. So I hope we've got it. Brain-gut connection, stress impacts our health. It makes us feel bad, and that impacts a lot of other things. Here's how that stress communication is happening. We talked about that. And here's how the body can respond to it. So gut makes serotonin. Brain calls for it in order for the body to use it. But if there's a short circuit in that system, and you either don't have enough healthy bacteria for serotonin production, or if you have too much bad bacteria like a candida or yeast overgrowth, serotonin levels are going to be decreased, okay? They're going down. Therefore, the brain will not have enough serotonin to use, and you can become chronically depressed or experience sustained anxiety, all right? So what can cause a short circuit in serotonin? Okay, we've already talked chronic stress can do that. Bad bacteria in the gut can do that. But also a bad diet can do that, can contribute to it. Diets primarily consisting of high sugar and processed foods, which we eat or tend to eat even more when we're stressed out. Chronic antibiotic use. Chronic stress can lower our immune system, and when our immune system is lower, then we tend to get sick more often, and what is an outcome of that? It can be antibiotic use. So if you're sick a lot and you take a lot of antibiotics, that could be impacting your health in a negative way, in the form of decreased serotonin production. Also, not to mention bad digestion, but that's a whole nother topic for another show. High alcohol consumption. Alcohol is a downer. It might make us feel good for a short minute, but ultimately you're going to crash. It's a downer. All of these areas can negatively impact serotonin production. And in addition to slowing serotonin production, your stress hormones will create havoc with your digestion system. You need to be able to rest and digest. And if you are in protection mode, you are not feeling like you're comfortable and you're going to rest. So if you are chronically stressed, you lose your ability to do this. And your disabled digestion causes symptoms like stomach pain, malabsorption, reflux, bloating, constipation, and diarrhea. It even leads to infections like SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth, with one of the main symptoms being irritable bowel syndrome. And that is no fun, folks. Nobody likes stomach pain, nobody likes diarrhea, nobody likes constipation. And let me tell you something. When you are super stressed and all of your body functions are going towards getting you out of stress, and your normal body functions are being shut down because you're so focused on getting out of stress, this is where your body's not going to get rid of bad bacteria in your gut causing diarrhea. It's not going to allow you to go to the bathroom. It's not going to allow you to absorb good nutrients. All of that stuff, it's because your body is focused on getting you out of stress and not functioning. And it leads to all of these things. I hope you're starting to get the picture and see how it's all tied together. How stress is shutting other things down in your body instead of letting it do its job. This is why it's so important. We have to get away from and get out of stress whenever we can. All right, I'm getting too wrapped up in this topic. We're going to move along. When serotonin production plunges, when it goes down, a common medical treatment to prescribe is a class of drug called a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So some pharmaceutical names you might be familiar with are Paxil, Prozac, or Zoloft. And the job of the serotonin reuptake inhibitors is to make sure that serotonin gets to the brain and stays there longer. So when we are no longer able to naturally get the serotonin where it needs to go, there are pharmaceuticals that can help us do that. Now, I think some of you know, and if you don't know, I guess you're going to know now, but I am not a fan of pharmaceuticals. I'm just not. I'm a fan of the body first, and I guess pharmaceuticals last. So why even bring this up? Why even bring serotonin reuptake inhibitors up? And it's because sometimes they are just necessary. And that's a hard thing for someone like me to accept. But I've learned from personal experience, sometimes they are just necessary. Sometimes the emotional distress that someone is under is so great that they could be they, being the pharmaceuticals, could be the difference between life and death. And that's just a fact. So if you are or know someone who is under just tremendous emotional distress, dealing with depression and anxiety, even if you want a more holistic approach to their health to cure, if possible, these symptoms, you can't be afraid of the pharmaceuticals. Now, I'm not saying just immediately run to them, but you can't be afraid to use them even on a short-term basis, which is a hard lesson that I had to learn. Because while the serotonin reuptake inhibitors are a short-term fix and they're going to help, they do not solve the problem. They're just addressing the symptoms, right? And in health, we want to solve the problem. We don't just want to cover up the symptoms, because we're never really truly healing at that point. We're just getting by. We're existing. We're not healing. We're not living at our 100% God-given health ability. We want to address the problem. And in many instances, the long-term solution to emotional distress, not every, but in many instances for depression or anxiety, if you can address stress levels and heal the gut or your GI system, your body will be able to function properly without medication. Like I said, it's not 100%. This is not a health decision you should make outside of your professional health provider. I share this because I want you to know there are options. It is possible to use serotonin reuptake inhibitors and work on your gut health at the same time, but most people aren't aware that their gut needs to be fixed. They're not aware how serotonin production happens. They're not aware how a breakdown in the chain of command of communication to the brain happens. They're not aware what's causing that breakdown. And so they just rely solely on the medication. But you have more options. Even if your emotional distress is so severe and you are on a serotonin reuptake inhibitor for the rest of your life, because sometimes the effects of chronic stress are just that bad. Studies are finding that the constant waves of stress hormones just rolling over the body day after day after day after day, month after month, prolonged periods of time of this happening can actually shrink parts of your brain because of decreased blood flow to that area. So you remember in protection mode, where is that blood going? It's going everywhere it needs to get you out of trouble, and this is usually your muscles and not your brain. So your prefrontal cortex, your hippocampus, your amygdala, all very critical parts of your health and your emotional health, they are compromised. Your cognitive thinking is diminished, emotions are stunted. Your body does not have the support it needs to function at its 100% capacity. It's not in growth mode. And so sometimes, because of the prolonged effects of this phenomenon, if you will, happening in your body, sometimes you need pharmaceuticals. But how much more effective could those pharmaceuticals be if your body was able to produce, and we're just talking about emotional health here, guys. That's what this whole show has been about. It's been about stress, emotional health, the brain-gut axis, because there are so many other components to this stress and health topic that we could spend several months diving into each one of them. And this is just a very high-level look at this one little area. But what if your body was able to produce just a little more serotonin naturally because you worked on healing your gut? Okay? Or what if you work on getting your stress in check and healing your gut as a preventive measure so you won't need Paxil or Prozac? So, would it be possible to increase the efficacy of your pharmaceuticals or avoid even having to take them if you could keep your stress in check and have a high functioning GI system? Think about it. Just please think about it. Because in my opinion, and by the way, my opinions are my own, they do not reflect the opinions of KPOG or any of its affiliates. I think many people around the world are headed for an emotional crash as another consequence of COVID-19 because of the prolonged stress. I think that is a very likely possibility. It's my hypothesis. We will see what actually happens. So what can we do? What can we do about this? One, don't shortchange your natural health and the body's God-given ability to heal. If there's one good thing that has come out of COVID-19, I hope it's that our state of health is critically important. I hope that wakes people up to that. Your state of health and spiritual health are both critically important. We saw how those who already had an existing health condition were more at risk of dying, and they did. Also, if you lack hope and you're in bad health, you're at more risk of not surviving that, and hope springs eternal from the good Lord above. Both critically important, both areas that tend to be ignored in today's society. So, number one, don't shortchange your natural health. Pay attention to it, work to improve it. And two, we can rethink stress and reclaim our peace and joy. And that's where we're going to pick up things next week, because we are out of time on temple building for today. So next Sunday, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Facebook Live or kpog.org or 102.9 FM or the KPOG smartphone app, we are going to dive into more about healing your gut and rethinking stress and the different tools we can use to purposely live a more joyful life. So in the meantime, just remember, your body is a temple, so let's build it.